Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And I want to talk about Mars in Cancer for a little bit. So, Mars has just ingressed into Cancer, and that was creating a great impact on the Cancer, but also the Aquarius and the Pisces area in your lives, and to some degree the Gemini as well, because those are ruled by Jupiter in Gemini. Mars, okay, now this is the interesting thing, because Mars and Gemini was going from the trine with Pluto, which is actually very benefic, except that it conjunct Sedna, to the inconjunct with Pluto and the square with Neptune. So we are still releasing from that square with Neptune, where we go out of the sense of feeling helpless, hopeless, or just simply we had kind of like a crisis where it's kind of like either you are going to be, experiencing defeat or experiencing being a victim, but because it's Mars, and because now Mars is going also to the inconjunct with Pluto, which is now in, then you may have experienced going from crisis of victimhood and helplessness to taking back your power. The inconjunct is a very Uranian aspect. It's the it just happened aspect. So and now Mars is in Cancer, sign of its fall. However, Mars in Cancer on mundane level is people doing Mars, okay? So there can be violence of people, but Pluto is in Capricorn. This is the plutocracy, okay? This is all the systems that didn't serve us well during COVID. They're getting, some of them, and they're getting the karma, okay? People are now not turning to the very systems, whether it's the medical system, okay, it's the juristic system, it's the police, that was participated in delay of justice, especially with the Venus, Lilith, Ketu on 7, safe, okay, 3 times 7, is basically backfiring all the power of 3, use of 7 in all kinds of satanic rituals and occult rituals. So in spirit and in matter, there is a great surge of people, once again, feeling that crisis, the Mars Neptune, just be like defeat. Like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to turn to? All of these, it's like, wait, I have a conflict of interest with all of them, because that person, that thing, that presenter was actually engaged with all of these systems. So that means I have a conflict of interest of all of these systems. I can expose the person, and I have all the legitimacy, even juristically, to do so, because I have a conflict of interest. So it's not like I could turn to somebody, and there are many cases where people did turn to somebody and still got murdered, whether it's the police, whether it's hospital, whether it's the this, whether it's the that. Okay, so some of that might not be as lethal, but definitely Mars Pluto is hard aspect, and definitely this is the sign of the people. The moon is in Libra. Okay, so the Libra is juristic system. Libra is trade system. Okay, we talk about financial violence or stuff like that. Did you know that the biometric identification is illegal? It's illegal. Okay, and making your identity ID expiration date sensitive is illegal. Your identity doesn't expire. If this document is a proof of your identity doesn't expire. Okay, all these things are illegal. Also, to ask you for ID is illegal, yes, but it's important for you to understand these things, and the role of Sedna in all of this, which I talked about in other episode. Now Mars is going from this in conjunction with Pluto and square with Neptune towards the direct opposition with Pluto, which I said is going to be direct opposition, okay? And to basically square Neptune. That point Okay, it's going from the inconjunct to the opposition with Pluto. Inconjunct to opposition in a synodic cycle, it's one of the most excitatory state. And this is the opening, okay? It's not the closing, which I want you to keep in mind. Okay, you're only opening the annoyance of a cycle when it goes from the opposition to the inconjunct. This is the closure for this phase. Not the entire synodic cycle of Mars-Pluto, which takes 2.5 years, but definitely right now, the annoying time we're going through right now is just the opening. We go from the Uranian part where, and I want to talk about something physical. Okay, when you have a state, you cannot unboil an egg. Okay, and this is due to plasticity. The inconjunct is where we change a state, where we change from elasticity to plasticity in a way that we cannot unboil an egg. Okay, there's a change here where what's done is done. Mars is confrontational. Mars is going to expose Plutonian. So this is psychology as well. I spoke, look who I spoke, Itamar Yaron, a clinical psychodynamic psychotherapist, also perhaps intelligence agent or civil engineer for sure, working with welfare, that have been really doing crazy things. And there are this technology that can show for these electromagnetic things. And if I don't have access to technology, it means that my voice immediately must be validated, because it's the benefit of doubt to me when I expose. Okay, so all of these things, I didn't think about these things, it just happened, because this is the Uranian aspect that caused you. And I prayed, to be honest, I prayed for 5 years that somebody else will do it, because I came to him after the Me Too. Okay, so I prayed for 5 years, so let somebody else take that battle. let the other people, let the children will speak, let this, let that. And meanwhile, I tend to do it on a larger scale, okay, which wasn't the wrong thing to do, but I really prayed that somebody else would expose. I have to admit, I prayed somebody else would expose him, really. It's just so, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to continue on with my life. You go to therapy, but now with this aspect to Mars in Cancer, exposure of anything plutonian. Also, if there are nuclear explosions that are hidden, we might know about them, especially at sea. Okay, what else is Pluto? So hidden power. Hidden banking. Okay, look, Liechtenstein. Okay, but I talked about Liechtenstein yesterday. That is almost 14 times more rich than the British Kingdom. Oh, okay. That's a bit, it's a tiny country. Money laundering. How they made the money? Not false teeth. Money laundering. And so, monarchy. So this is a really big time. And before we break it down to the Mars retrograde, we are going and spending the time of Mars in its detriment sign while it is going from the square to the trine with Neptune. So that means that you go from a sense of like being defeated, being helpless, being like, what am I going to do with all these systems? What am I going to do with all these people? What am I going to do? There's no one who understands what I'm talking about, to the trine. There's actually a technology that can trace that. If you don't have accessibility to that, first of all, the benefit of the doubt is given to you. If juristic system is corrupt, then you have conflict of interest with juristic system, with the WHO, with the WEF, with Wagner Fund, with basically everybody that is a part of this, which makes you free. You're a free person. You're free to speak up. And any way to try to assassinate you, okay? So you're free. Okay, so Neptune goes from this final to wait a second. Okay? And Neptune's very spiritual. Neptune is not seeking revenge. Neptune saying, well, with all things true, I wish you the best. I wish you the best. If you die, I wish you to be easy death, to cross over, and you can process these things with love buffer. If you live, I wish you good life, so you don't even feel the need to oppress another, and are not constrained with anything that would make you oppress another. I wish myself the same as I wish you. The same. This is Neptune. This is power of Neptune, is spiritual protection. And then we go to the opposition with Pluto. So in the opposition with Pluto, we're going to have full spiritual protection. This means to me, what's the upside of this opposition with Pluto? That the direct conflict that we're going to have with Mars-Pluto on the point of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when Pluto was going from Cancer to Leo, we dropped Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay? Different constellation. But Mars is going over that time, and because it's contacting Pluto, we are going on certain cycle that touches on this point, this time with Mars rather than with Pluto. Okay? But Neptune is going to be very protective of this confrontation. This tells me that there's the power of spiritual mitigation. Okay? There's the power of spiritual mitigation. That karma is served gracefully. Okay? Even though Mars-Pluto is very confrontational. It's very confrontational. And it's going to happen from Cancer, then Leo, then Cancer again. And Mars does not go out for good of Cancer until the spring. So thanks to the expos that bothered to mention that, Mars does not go out, and we are in 2024. Spring 2025 is when Mars goes out of Cancer. This time is volatile, and I want to encourage you, if you feel like you are feeling defeated, also if you've been exposed, the things that you hold. For example, if you grew up in death camps, exposure is not to take off your head, it's to change for the circumstances that made you in the situation. If jails right now are places that are meant to torture people, so jail system need to be changed. It's also why it was allowed that you were out of jail for so long, because this jail is not just correctly. Point is not for people to be tortured for what they did. The point is to withhold the people from hurting other people. And when people experience what psychic attack, what people call psychosis, housing first without dependency on ability to work and believe in the person, allows for person to take back sovereignty because they are in supported environment. So maybe they will channel, maybe they will do something creative with themselves, but or they would grow vegetables, so they would do something with themselves, just not becoming criminal like the person who hurt them, Itamar Yaron. And so there is an entire system that needs to change. So also people are exposed. They also have a point of grace. This Neptune remedy is not just the person who is saying, yeah, I had enough of being attacked. I had enough of trying to sage every day. I have enough of listening to how to remove a psychic attack from astral projections on YouTube all day. I had enough of this. But also with the person that is exposed, there is a lot of the gift of grace. Because indeed, a lot of the people that are in this Pluto position have grown into death cults or joined cults, or they had to do it to graduate. Okay, or they would be seriously attacked. So this pertains to all of your trained people. This is why I'm against currently a standardization of astrology, because it breeds Peter rings. It's for favor of practitioners. It's not because I have something against anybody. I buy courses of astrology. I support my community over the money that I have for food. So they don't have money for food sometimes, because I'm okay, because I care to move the money in direction where I was supported by community. Okay, so it's not against community. But any profession, any certification that's tied to this type of secret societies, to these cults. And here colleagues cannot talk about the pedo rings. Colleagues targeted for COVID, they have to comply with the system. And by now they know they're targeted because they took the vaccine, took the vaccine, until they took the vitamins, they got better. And some of them had partners, had people, had family that had problem with immune system, and they were still targeted for this thing. I will not shut up anymore. It's my colleagues, the people I learned astrology from. Why? Because they put out knowledge for free for people who cannot afford to pay. So until you grow, until you afford to pay, you get better with your life. You have this in energy, you have this teaching, you have this. Outside the cult, no matter who you are. If you had YouTube, you could watch this. You're not going to target my colleagues. Now we go with this Mars, okay? People begin to take the power. And please, the confrontation here is very spiritually protected. And even if you are the person for whom is justice for you to be exposed, so that you will not hurt people. This is what it is. Then the exposure, there's a lot of protection on this Mars opposition, because we are in the century of Mars-Pluto sextile. So the protection is very, very strong, and there's a bisextile protecting if you set intention. You cannot use it malefically, because then you have less power, less conviction. People are going out of what people call victimhood state. It's not victimhood state, because people are not to blame for being victims. That being said, if so many people die, eventually there would be people that won't die. And it's not anybody's fault if you couldn't expose, if you couldn't, this is not your fault. But it's also not going to be made possible. This is going to over and over and over again be happening, and the people not doing anything about this, eventually they will. Okay? Because if it's one person threatening me, then maybe I don't know, take a poison, take a this, and off, bye-bye. Because this system not working, this system not, bye-bye. But so many people will say bye-bye, what will happen? A war, the plague, which we know now is medical warfare, so it's also war. Natural disasters, just A-bombs, nuclear war. So power is given to people to take on this power. This is what's happening right now. It's a reset of karma. Okay, Pluto and Saturn sign. Mars is not in the best place in Cancer, but it must be in Cancer, because Cancer mundanely is the sign of the people. Later the leaders as well. I won't be surprised to see monarchs, royal family leaders say, I had enough of this. I grew up in a death cult, that the way out was death. All you would see is what they did to others. And yes, this is rape, this is torture, this is pedophilia. For the leaders, they had to do that. Not of what was done to me. This is rape, this is torture, this is pedophilia. And either you find a way to remediate, to do something from within the system, or you're dead. But if you're dead, there's still going to be world war, there's still going to be nuclear war. And when it's off with their heads, it's off with the head of the leader, because they want to sacrifice you instead of them. I won't be surprised if I'll see leaders that say that. And they will be correct. You want to watch Mama versus Mafia? The testimony of Lars. He was satanically ritually abused by people such as Mark Rutte, such as Geert Wilders, and he knows, he's seen, he's witnessed that they have been satanically ritually abused as well. Okay? It's not that they can just walk out. It's important. So Mars have to be in the sign of its fall, because the sign of its fall happens to be the people mundanely. It has to happen. So it has to go through Cancer, and it stays there. And this is when all of these things happening, people begin to prepare to take the power. And this is armed power. This is armed power. and people protected, but also the people that are exposed to plutocracy, okay, they're given grace. Pluto in Aquarius, November 19, Pluto will enter Aquarius again. Even when the time they were off with their heads, they invented the guillotine so it would be more humane death, not like Inquisition, okay? So even if it's death, it's going to be safer by hands of the people than by hands of Inquisition. I'm not saying it has to be death, okay? But there's protection, there is all the protection for people, even if you have to cross over. So it won't be like the cult of Memento Mori, where you're afraid of torture, we're afraid of rape, regardless of gender, we're afraid of all these things. It's going to be, even if death, then humane death, okay? That with dignity is time of awareness, great awareness and abolishing of torture, but also of cults. Not saying it's easy time in history, but at least we're going towards even more direct confrontation. So we're going from a crisis of feeling helpless. Some people may have feeling like, oh, where all these angels been? Okay, where all these angels been? Because right now it's not just the angels. We take action, whether it's exposure, whether it's defending ourselves physically, whatever it is. People begin to take action. Yes, Mars is sign of his fault, but I want to remind you, Jean-Claude Van Damme had Mars Cancer. This person, he basically, all the scenes that you see in the movies for Jean-Claude Van Damme, he was doing them for real. He was fighter for real. Okay? There's also Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't think you want to get into a battle with Jesse. I wouldn't. Okay? He's very humble. Very, very humble. But I wouldn't get into a necessary fight with Jesse. He's also very honest. But I wouldn't get into a fight with him. Okay? So Mars in Cancer, yes, it's very emotional. It can do acting out. It can do this. It can do that. It's still Mars. And Mars in Cancer can also fight to defend the people or to defend the nuclear family. Okay? So people are fighting to defend the people. It's the fact, I want to say another thing. Planet in detriment, talk about planet in detriment. Planet in detriment, yes, they're not at home. But the fact that they're not, what do we do when we're not at home? We work on our qualities, sometimes so much so. If you hear people in a foreign land where they study the language, they speak sometimes better. Most people who learn English that don't live in America may speak better English than Americans. It's true. And it's not just that, it's also the culture. Okay? So when planet is in detriment, it can sometimes compensate so much so that, okay, Mark Rutte has Mercury fallen, Mercury in Pisces. And if you hear him talk, he can smooth over everything. He can compare Putin to Hitler instead of to Stalin, and himself to Churchill instead of to Eisenhower or to Hitler. Head of NATO. Okay? This Mercury is known as Teflon Mark because everything is very slippery communication. You hear this person speak about politics, you're like, oh my God. It's almost poetry, but in, okay, maneuvers. So, and yes, people say that he's lying a lot. I don't think he's necessarily lying more than others. I think it's just not bothering to hide when he does. Okay, Pisces is evasive, so he will not tell you no, but he will go around the truth. Because like, why do I have to tell you the truth? Okay, if you ask for personal life and so on and so on. And by the way, when I said he's going to have 1st to 7th, actually there's a documentary about his personal life, which is interesting. A week later came out documentary. Just I said, look, Mark Rutte. So again, the fact that that the planet is in a detriment, or in this case Mars is in fall, should not make you believe that you have no power or you're not going to be good at this. It just means that you work extra hard with this, and Mars uses the qualities of Cancer, which is very good to protect your food, to protect your nourishment, to protect mothers, to protect your houses. Okay, Mars is excellent for that. That being said, you may get emo and be overreactive when fighting with your mother or something like that, because this can also happen. And we're gonna have Mars in Cancer for until the spring, because we freaking need it. Okay, we have two lunar eclipse, solar eclipse coming up with Mars in Cancer. Mars ruling Rahu, both of them Mars ruling Rahu. What is planned? Okay, mandatory army service. You're gonna go to serve mandatory army service for the same people that give you shots for your fertility, so you can't have children unless they say so, and then you can't abort them. Because the people, you know, whether it's Mark, whether it's Schwab, whether it's these presenters, some of them have remediatory. Ruta Sun and Dena Balgadi, Jupiter and Procyon, the sweetening of the verdict. But do we, the people, cause and when it came in Netherlands, when it came to children and taxation, where people were forced to pay back the grants they got for the children, then they caused the resignation of Teflon Mark. So why not when children are kidnapped? So why not when children are molested? So why not when children are misplaced or not registered at birth because of the lodges? No. Remember 19th of November. Okay, and this is something to keep in mind. People definitely have and had the power, both when Mark was in Netherlands and now for all of Europe and Africa. Africa is in NATO. Africa is building A-bombs. Okay? If you say, but Africa is... No, I mean Africa. Like Europe, Africa. The defluoridization of the water and building A-bombs is 2027 going to be a line of eclipses on Northern Africa. It's not one country in Africa. It's not one village in Africa. It's you starting to question yourself, where is best for my natal chart to live in, and what do I do to get there, whether within Africa or outside Africa? Because yes, we're part of the reset. Here Africans say, I don't think Africa is going to be a part of the... It is already. Don't stay like... Don't do white, okay? Don't do chill. I'm chilling. Nothing happens. Reset, okay? Like it's been colonized once. We don't need it again. So that being said, Mars in Cancer is going to remind us that not only we have power to act, we're also spiritually protected. The more that we act and the more confrontational we get, the more spiritually protected we are, until Mars is opposing Pluto. And then there is a culmination, just letting go. We have until spring. It's going to be time where people are going to get more and more confrontational. And there's going to be more and more exposure. Every day, look even at the music industry, look at the parliament, every day new exposure. This person member appearing, this person member appearing, this person member appearing. Every day, until all society wakes up, you say, okay, this is too much, people. It's not that if I was hurt by my psychologist, I can go to the police, I can go to the welfare. Oh, he's in the welfare. So it's connected also with the police. Oh, so maybe I can go to some, psychiatrist to say, oh, this is how, oh, it's connected with the psychiatry. Or they kidnap people before 7th October. Oh, but they have connected with Supreme Court. Oh, because it's the same, it's the Wagner Fund. It's the same fund where they give them the grants and they have to do things like betray the country. Post-academic studies that you rape people to heal from your psychosis after war, Bassa van der Kolk. And that's the therapy the people have. Oh, but there's open dialogue. There's housing first. People without any medication, without anything, or the other way around. They need to be believed in good environment and have ability to have know that they are housed independently and indefinitely. Okay, not with expiration time, and then they don't have psychosis. Oh, so psychosis basically happens when people are deprived of their homes. Oh, really? And entire societies, entire villages beginning to learn this. All the people that say, well, get a job. Oh, you went through torture. Why don't you get a job? Really? You went through torture so much so that you were not able to work, that you became homeless. Why don't you get a job? Really? You know, Adolf Hitler had great jobs for people who think like that. My grandfather escaped for what these jobs that he gave for the people who think like that. And then what they expected him for to get a job. But he said, I'll be a business owner. Open grocery store. Something with food, that every day there's food, even if my business fails, is food. And they try to come against him. So he will not be able to hold his shop. Not be able to hold food and feed the people. Yes, he did in Holocaust. I'm not saying it was perfect. It was not. But for the people who, because they're in secret societies, say, oh, get a job. Adolf Hitler had a great job for all of you. It won't make you free. Arbeit macht nicht frei. And for your work to be yielding, you need to take care of yourself. So people need to take care of themselves for the work to be yielding. The success. Good balance of rest and work. Sovereignty. Okay? All of these things are perfecting right now to the direct confrontation. And the opposition is very, very protected. There is the gift of grace. It's not about revenge. It's not about inquisition. It's not about the torture. It's not about this. It is the gift of grace. So Neptune mitigates this opposition so that people will not act with vengeance, but would act to liberate themselves and to take the power back. It's very, very protected. Okay? Even people who are afraid to be exposed is still the gift of grace. Because the point is not to do to the oppressors of what they did. Okay? It's not. It's just to perpetuate evil. The point is to end oppression, to end the slavery, to end the jail settings, jail experiment settings, to end expandable children praxis, to end the divide and conquer amongst genders, amongst nations, amongst tribes, amongst people. Okay? Because Mars knows very well, he's been there. Hey, Pluto been there. What's the last time Pluto been where I am? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They ended the war. Nazis helped United States to develop the intelligences around this. So there was not a war between the Nazis and the US. No, there's not a war between the Nazis and the US. So what was Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Mass human sacrifice ritual to build a new world where you can get in debt without gold changing hands. Women got the right to have bank account. Women got the right to have property. Women got the right to vote. So if that's the only way that you're more inclusive towards women, it's not optimal, but it's better than humanity going extinct, right? So right now we're even closer to the juncture. either humanity really is going extinct, or we're going to go be even more inclusive practice, willing consent practice, bloodline segregation, abolition of expandable children, and let people be. The Ubermensch is just ein Mensch. That's it. So yes, Mars is going to be in fall until spring. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to touch on the opposition with Pluto, back and forth. It's protected by Neptune. Mars Neptune is divine protection. It is meaning that you're not acting for out of vengeance, and you're not avoiding confrontation either. It is optimal for justice. And it is optimal for bringing to justice. So even if you have to kill someone to protect yourself, is optimal time to do that. Okay, so you can send them off without torture. Okay, this is very important. This is going to happen throughout. Pluto going in Capricorn, and then we're already there. Okay, Pluto is in Capricorn, and then November 19, Pluto enters Aquarius. If you are associated with people in the cult, if you are in cult, if you are in secret societies, please listen to survivors of satanic ritual abuse. Please listen to Ronald Bernard. Please get yourself, any way possible, get yourself something you can, if needed be, okay? It's very important. And every action you take against those who enforcing this on you, okay, is so important right now, because we are at the phase where, until the guillotine was developed, okay, it was developed during Pluto in Aquarius, and this means that the people don't all have access to arms. They don't all have access to kill you in a way is needed, okay, so that you will not suffer. They don't all have this. It takes time for them to develop this, okay, and they don't understand. So if you act against people, it's no longer protected. It's no longer protected. You're not protected. If you act against the people, you're not protected. Not protected. Only protected in the crossing over. But because it's a process, and because we're moving towards this, okay, maybe in the opposition there will be something like guillotine that people develop, but because it is only happening right now, I want to talk about the case, okay, and say also murder of the soul costs more life. In this case, the person was in jail for raping somebody's daughter, and he went out of jail, and from jail, he went out of it and continued to threaten the family. And the mother had no way to kill him. She just wanted to stop the torture. She burned him alive. She burned him alive. Not because she wanted to torture him, not because she could kill him mercifully, but she didn't want to, not because anything, not because she was evil. She had no way to end this torture. She did what she could. He was burnt alive. Because we the people don't have access to protect yourself, and this is your karma if you perpetuate stuff against us, that we don't have karma. We don't have the arms to protect ourselves and to kill you in a way that you wouldn't suffer. Until we develop this, we have to protect ourselves. So you die in those deaths. Okay? When you act against the people. Why? Because you believe your bloodline is superior and you're meant to enslave and to oppress us, and you're not. It causing blood disease to you. I talked about this when I talked about previous episode, okay? So, this means we will have to protect ourselves by any means necessary. This means that we don't have ability, skill, or training to kill you with dignity. We need to develop it during this, and it might only happen when Mars is opposing Pluto. So please, turn against for the people that tell you to hurt the people. All activity must do against them. Must. Because when you do that, you're protected. When do you do that, you're protected. More so than you think. You also need to take, bless you, sneezing. In my culture, it means true. It means that when you do that, you're protected. It means that you are also taking your own power back from within the cult against the cult that enslaved you. And when you ask questions, they say, this is because you're a free man, that you're not a slave. This is why we are raping you, we are this. This is enlightenment. You have to take the power back against these people. When you do that, you're protected. But when you perpetuate it down the pyramid, you're not protected. To the people, not protected. Okay? And people still that's aggressive. People still don't have access to the weapon that they could training that they could kill you without you suffering. Okay, we're not trained at killing yet. Even though when people went to army, not all of them have guns. And you're not protected. We don't have a way to kill you with dignity. We don't have access to it. Please, direct energy where you are protected. It is at those who tell you to oppress the people. And if you can't get out of cults before November 19, if it's possible, if you're in a rank where it's possible to disassociate with cults, with secret societies, listen to Survivors, listen to Imagination Podcast, listen to Anneke Lucas, listen to Ronald Bernard, and I bless you for you would be able to be protected. You act on this now. And it's not about getting away with, it's not about, if you genuinely want out, okay, bless you for the ability to go out of these death camps. So, I'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.